Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something truly profound. We're looking at a 500-year-old solution to a very modern epidemic, our constant dissatisfaction. Listen, if you've ever felt like no matter what you accomplish, it's just never quite enough, you are absolutely not alone. We're going to explore the incredible insights of a forgotten mystic who literally mapped out the architecture of human consciousness, and we'll see exactly how her teachings can help us reclaim our inner peace today.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever noticed this totally bizarre phenomenon? You finally hit a goal you've been chasing for months. Maybe it's a promotion at work, buying that new phone, or hitting a major financial milestone. You are genuinely thrilled. For what, maybe 3 days? And then, almost like clockwork, your mind just starts chasing the next thing. Another goal, another comparison, another insecurity. It is so incredibly relatable. It's almost as if there's this invisible, relentless machine inside us that absolutely refuses to let us just sit back and feel complete.
Well, ancient mystics actually had a very specific name for this invisible machine: the ego. Now, we aren't talking about ego in the modern sense of just, being arrogant or bragging. We're talking about the restless self. It's that quiet, constant voice continuously whispering that you aren't enough, that you need more, that you always have to prove yourself. It is, for sure, the core engine of our discontent.
Section 1. The relentless modern mind, the endless pursuit of more.
To really grasp why this 500-year-old wisdom is so absolutely crucial right now, we have to look at how we're living today. Let's be real, modern society is phenomenal at fixing the outside world, but we completely neglect the inside. Just think about all our modern optimizations. We optimize our productivity with a dozen different apps. We optimize our careers, we track our diets down to the microgram. We even optimize our sleep with smart rings and high-tech mattresses. We spend so much energy on all these external things, yet very few of us ever learn to optimize the mind itself. And that's actually wild when you think about it, because your mind is the one thing creating every single experience you will ever have. Section 2. The Forgotten Mystic, Aisha al-Bauniyya. So 500 years ago, one remarkable woman dedicated her entire life to understanding this invisible force driving our minds. Picture Damascus around the year 1500. It was this thriving, bustling center of intellectual life, though, overwhelmingly dominated by men. And into this world emerges Aisha. She achieved this incredible feat of writing more works in Arabic than any known woman before the modern age. She mastered Islamic sciences, poetry, law, and especially Sufism, which is the mystical tradition focused on inner transformation. What makes her so vital for us today is that in her major works, like the Principles of Sufism, she wasn't just debating abstract theology. She was charting the architecture of human consciousness. And she wrote with such intense clarity that her books served as practical maps for the heart. These were not obscure texts for isolated monks. They were meant for ordinary people seeking extraordinary inner peace. Section 3. Taming the Untrained Ego, Facing the Invisible Machine. What's absolutely fascinating here is how perfectly her 16th century ideas map onto our modern psychological struggles, things like burnout, chronic stress, and anxiety. She used this concept of the nafs. The nafs is basically the lower self, or the ego. But notice this absolutely crucial distinction. It is not evil. It's simply untrained. Aisha taught teskiyat al-nafs, which means the purification of the self. Notice she said purification, not destruction. This isn't about hating yourself or carrying around heavy guilt. She viewed the human being as naturally capable of incredible beauty. And it's like a mirror covered in dust. Our true nature just gets hidden. So purification is really just about wiping away the dust that blocks your true reflection. She used some brilliant metaphors to explain this. Think of the ego like owning a magnificent, powerful horse. If you train that horse, it will carry you safely across massive mountain ranges. But if you leave it completely wild, it's going to throw you off every single cliff it finds. The problem isn't that you have the horse. The problem is you never bothered to learn how to ride it. To put it in modern terms, imagine buying the world's most advanced, expensive sports car and then tossing the keys to a 5-year-old. No way, right? It's ridiculous. Yet, That is exactly how so many of us operate when we let every fleeting impulse, emotion, and fear take the steering wheel of our lives.
And honestly, one of the funniest things about the untrained ego is just how incredibly dramatic it is. We've all been there. You send someone a text message. 20 minutes go by, nothing. No reply. Your ego immediately starts writing an Oscar-winning screenplay. It instantly decides, oh, they hate me. I definitely said something wrong. I've ruined the relationship. And then, ping, the reply arrives. Sorry, my phone died. Congratulations, your ego just won Best Original Fiction. When we let the ego run the show, it is literally like looking out through a filthy, dirty window. The world outside appears ugly, dark, and totally blurred. But when you finally quiet the ego, it's like taking a cloth and scrubbing that window clean. Suddenly, everything looks completely different. Now, the external world didn't actually change at all, did it? But your perception of it shifted entirely. That right there is the power of taming the nafs.
Section 4. Ancient Wisdom, Modern Science, Bridging the 500-Year Gap. And this brilliantly illustrates how Aisha's mysticism bridges perfectly to today. Everything she talked about aligns flawlessly with modern brain science. Look at this overlap. The Sufi concept of the nafs, that directly mirrors what neuroscientists today call cognitive biases and reward circuits. Our brains love shortcuts, and they automate behaviors to save energy, which, by the way, is exactly why we mindlessly doom scroll on our phones even when we desperately want to stop. Next, her practice of zikr, or continuous remembrance, is basically what modern psychology calls mindfulness and attention training. It's about actively interrupting that autopilot. And finally, her focus on purified intention maps perfectly to what behavioral economists call intrinsic motivation. It turns out the science of today is just catching up to the mysticism of the past. Aisha really emphasized love as this deeply transformative force that actively rewires our self-centeredness. See, the ego always operates on the question, what do I get out of this? But love operates on a totally different frequency. What can I give? Think about a mother caring for a newborn baby. She is beyond exhausted. She's sleeping way less, working much harder, yet she complains less. Why is that? Because genuine love fundamentally changes her motivation. It acts like an entirely different operating system for the human mind. This ties so perfectly into her brilliance regarding intention. Imagine two people doing the exact same good deed. One gives charity entirely for the praise and the photo op. That's extrinsic motivation. The other gives quietly, anonymously, just to actually help. Intrinsic motivation. Modern psychology absolutely proves her point here. External validation, the praise, the social media likes, the fancy titles, they all eventually fade away. But a meaningful, internal purpose, that continues feeding the soul long after the action is done. And honestly, this wisdom is our absolute best defense against the modern trap of comparison. Let's face it, social media is an amusement park for the ego. It constantly whispers, hey, look at them, you are falling behind. But Aisha would ask, behind whom exactly? Life isn't a race, it's a cultivation. Think of an apple tree. An apple tree doesn't sit there stressing out trying to compete with an olive tree. It simply fulfills its own nature. Modern research backs this up, showing that chronic stress from constant comparison literally floods our bodies with cortisol, narrowing our focus. Calming that ego literally biologically calms your nervous system.
Section 5. 5 Steps to Freedom. Aisha's Practical Framework.
So the crucial point is, how do we actually do this in our daily lives? We've derived a highly actionable 5-step framework directly from her teachings to help you take back the driver's seat. Let's walk through them. Step 1, pause before reacting. Even just a 5-second pause lets you ask, wait, is my true awareness responding right now, or is it just my ego? Step 2, observe recurring emotional triggers. Just notice your patterns. What repeatedly sets you off? Rejection? A lack of control? Simply observing these triggers severely weakens their unconscious grip on you. Step 3, practice daily remembrance or presence. Whether it's meditation or just conscious breathing, keep returning your attention to the present moment. It physically builds the muscle of awareness. Step 4, purify your intention. Before you act, ask yourself if you're doing it for applause or for genuine service. And finally, step 5, replace comparison with contribution.
Expanding on that last step, this is the only question you really need to be asking yourself. Did I become slightly better today than I was yesterday? You've got to shift your focus away from competing with those highly curated fake lives on the internet. Small, quiet, consistent improvements in your own character will always, always outperform loud, dramatic, ego-driven resolutions.
Because at the end of the day, our experience of life is dictated from the inside out. Two people can face the exact same identical setback. The event itself is exactly the same, yet one person grows wiser from it, and the other person grows incredibly bitter. Why? Because the suffering actually begins in our inner interpretation long before the external event even matters. That inner response is what creates two entirely different lives.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from Aisha's life and work. The biggest battle is rarely against the world, it's against unconsciousness. If you're looking for lasting peace, you are not going to find it by micromanaging and trying to control every single external circumstance in your life. It is only found by transcending that restless ego that constantly demands more.
We are living in an era of just unbelievable external technology. I mean, we've got artificial intelligence, quantum computing, we're exploring Mars. We know so much about the universe outside of us, yet millions of people remain complete strangers to their own minds. Inner space truly remains humanity's greatest and probably most important frontier.
So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Are you going to continue fighting the external world, just endlessly trying to optimize everything outside of yourself? Or will you take this 500-year-old journey inward? Aisha al-Bauniyya gave us the map. I highly encourage you to try applying these steps today, because as she reminds us, sometimes the absolute longest, most difficult journey any human being can take is just those few inches, from the mind down to the heart. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.